Hello, welcome to this my next and latest chess video. This is showing a game that I played yesterday, that is Saturday the 17th of May 2014. Again on the free internet chess server FICS, FICS, 5-minute blitz game. I'm black, rated about 1300, my opponent white is rated just on 1400 in this game. Haven't been playing much chess, just the odd game on the computer. And I haven't played much against FICS, and I'm quite rusty for the last few months. I want to get back to play a few more games. In fact, yesterday I played a couple of games, and I also looked at some chess videos. I saw some on excerpts on YouTube. One was Nick Pert playing the tournament player's guide to the French defence, and that was quite a good video. Nick Pert was extolling the virtues of the French Winoir and the poison pawn variation. That's a variation in the French that I know of, but I don't play, and I actually steer clear of because it is a bit theoretical, and unless you know the theory you can come unstuck. But obviously Grandmaster Nick Pert knows the theory, and he's demonstrated it in a good video, and it would be good to learn from that and add that to my armoury as a French defence player, but that's for later. So on with today's game. White plays e4, and I play e6, a standard French defence. Now white plays the aggressive to f4. I've not had great results against this. It's a very attacking move, and I'm not entirely sure how to play it, and especially seeing as I'm rusty and haven't played much chess over the last few months, so I just elect to play a standard French opening and play d5 here. I'm going to be wary of the f4 pawn because it can give white attacking chances, although if I am wary I can hopefully deal with it adequately, but it could be tricky. Here white just plays e5, advancing the e-pawn, and I carry on with my French opening with c5. White develops, knight to c3, knight to f3 rather. I play developing move knight c6, all very standard, and white develops with bishop to b5, pinning my knight. I respond with queen to b6, attacking the bishop. White plays bishop takes knight, and I recapture the bishop with the b pawn. B takes bishop c6. I do that because I want to put my light squared bishop onto the a6 square and have it attack on the king side. In fact, white now does castle king side, and the only drawback of the f4 for white is it has slightly weakened his king castling, but it does give white attacking possibilities, and that's why white plays it, of course. So here I play bishop to a6, attacking the white rook, so white moves his rook to e1. And now I want to get my doubled c-pawns rolling, and I play c4, which gives a discovered check. Queen's checking the king, so the white king has to move, and he elects to move in the corner to h1. And I want to carry on with my plan of moving these c-pawns. That could get troublesome for white, and it could lead to me undoubling my pawns. And actually, in the French defence, a lot of action often goes on the c-file. But before that, I develop with my bishop to c5. Now white plays c3. This is stopping my pawn advance on the c-file. But I'm not too worried, and also I'm quite pleased because at the moment, with white's pawn structure like this, his knight has nowhere to develop to, really. Developing out onto the a-file would lead to him probably getting double pawns, so I'd be tempted to take the knight from there. I now play a shot to nothing, bishop to f2, attacking the rook, but white can simply move his rook back to f1, and so that's not really being very productive for me, so I bring my bishop straight back to c5 and give up on that plan. And here white plays what I think is a silly move. He plays knight to e1, so he's just developed his knight to f3, and now he's undeveloped it back to e1. And if you have a look at white's pieces, they're what King's Crusher calls spectator pieces. They're all undeveloped on the first rank, and I have actually got my 2 bishops developed and the queen out as well. So I'm far ahead in development, and in fact I just play my knight to h6, developing my knight again. Here white now plays d4, shoring up the centre and making a strong pawn chain in the centre. At this stage I'm tempted to open up the files by playing en passant c takes d, but in fact I just leave it for the moment and I play my bishop back. The bishop's been very active and it goes back to the safe square of e7 for the moment. And here white plays his knight back to f3, so he's definitely lost the tempo mucking about with that knight. And I carry on with my plan of undoubling my c-pawns by playing c5. White protects the d-pawn with bishop to e3, and I capture the d-pawn, c takes d. White captures back with the bishop takes d4, threatening my queen. So I bring back my bishop, so my bishop has been flying around the board and my bishop is attacking the white bishop on d4. White elects not to swap off bishops at the moment, but plays queen to c2. He's maybe hoping, well he will be hoping to be pushing his f-pawn to f5 at some stage, maybe moving his knight to g5 might be quite useful at this stage, with his rook on the f-file as well. But anyway, I prevent the f-pawn moving by bringing my knight to the centre, knight to f5, and this attacks the white bishop as well. So white plays bishop takes bishop and I recapture queen takes bishop. And white now brings his rook to the e-file, rook to e1. I think he would have been better here to have played developing move with his knight. Knight to d2, or even at this stage he could even play knight to a3 at this stage, bring his knight, reroute his knight somehow or other. So his rooks are still unconnected and he hasn't completed his development. Well, I complete my development now with castling and my rooks are now connected. Okay, white moves his queen over to the e-file, queen e2, putting up pressure on the e-file. At the moment, white can't break through on the e-file. Maybe with the f5 push he could be, but so I have to be wary of that. Now I bring my rook on a to c8, the typical French defence of putting pressure on the c-file. And here white goes for it, playing g4. This is attacking my knight, so my knight has to move. And I move my knight to h6, and here I'm expecting something like f5. I keep expecting f5. Instead, white plays knight to d4, and this is a good spot. And this knight could get awkward for me from this spot, especially if white does play the f5 move. And I'm waiting for this move to come in, not really knowing what I can do to combat it, but hoping that I will have enough at the moment to combat it. For the time being, I bring my queen now back to e7, where I want to bring it onto the king side, and white's king is somewhat exposed now, having had the f4 and the g4 moves. Well, white elects not to play f5, instead plays g5 and goes for my knight. So I play knight back to f5, attacking the white knight, and here I think white's best move is play knight takes knight, when I have to recapture with my pawn, and this will open up the e-file, and white will have a lot of pressure with his queen and his rook on the e-file. But white doesn't do that. White actually brings his queen over to the h-file, and white is thinking that the queen pressure and the pawn pressure can prove strong against my castle king on the king side, but I elect to just remove some of the pressure by playing knight takes knight. White takes back, c takes knight d4, and white has a reasonable centre, pawn centre, but can he hold that? And I have the half opened c file, which is very thematic in the French, and I'll be trying to use that through the game. First though, I'm a bit worried about the queen, and I do play g6. Now this has weakened the g7 square quite a lot. White now just plays his queen down on the h-file to h6. Obviously g7 is now weak for me, and if white could get a pawn or a piece or something on it, f6, that would be very strong for him, and could threaten mate, or I say even worse, there's nothing worse than the mate, but so it's potentially threatening at the moment. However, I think I've got enough to hold if I can be careful, and I now play queen to b4, so that's a reasonable move. It's attacking his rook on e1 and also the pawn on b2. And here I think white blunders somewhat. He plays now knight to d2, and I can just play queen takes knight and go a piece up, and my queen's now in a good threatening position. So white actually brings his rook over, rook on a to d1, attacking my queen, but I have a good move here. I've got some options. I could have played queen takes b2, but even better is queen takes f4, and that f pawn, I've now gobbled it up. I wasn't planning on playing this way, but when your opponent allows you to do that, that's fine. And so the queen taking f4 has negated the whole point of white's opening move, and I've negated that very easily. So white now continues to harry my queen with his rooks, but just queen to e4 gives an annoying check, and white has to move out of that, and I can improve my queen position now. Queen e3 with a further check. So these series of checks are very annoying for white, and white has to move his king back again, and now I can start to roll my c-pawn and apply pressure on the c-file, and I have my bishop in reserve, which is attacking the white rook. So the white rook moves to attack my queen, but here I have an annoying check with queen to f3 again. The king has to move, and now I bring my bishop up into the action. Bishop to e2, attacking the white rook. The rook goes back to b1, but I just carry on. I advance the c-pawn, pawn to c2, attacking the rook. The rook defends by rook on b going to c1 and stopping the pawn promoting. Now I have a rook lift, rook to c4, and I'm planning on giving up the c-pawn, but my compensation is I can play rook takes d4 and smash white's centre now. Okay, so white here plays b3, attacking my rook and just provoking me to give up the c-pawn. I think it'd be better to try and get his queen into the game. The queen for white has just sat on the h-file with a vague threat, but nothing that white has been able to sort of turn into a proper threat. So I do just give up the c-pawn by playing rook takes d4, and that smashes white's centre. And actually here white goes ahead and plays rook takes c2, and white now is hoping to play rook takes bishop, two rooks attacking my bishop. In the game I played another move, but I notice going through this game now that I have rook to g4 is checkmate. That white king very exposed, and that would have been checkmate. But I've got over a minute left on my clock. My opponent has been struggling a bit and is down to 30 seconds. And I go on with my next plan, which is rook to d1, pinning the white rook on e1 to the king, and so white has to play rook takes rook, and I capture back bishop takes rook, and now white puts his rook onto f2, attacking my queen, but I can just sidestep that with queen to e3, pinning the rook, and white brings his king onto f1 to get off the pin, and I just gobble up a centre pawn. So my queen plays queen takes e5, and I have actually destroyed the white centre, and I'm up a piece, and everything's looking quite rosy for me. And here white's under time pressure, and he's feeling threatened by my moves, and the queen checks and he just blunders his rook. Rook to f3 is a blunder. I play bishop takes rook, and at this point white resigns. I maybe could have played queen to e2 check, and then I would have been able to win off the rook anyway that way and gone on to an easy checkmate and win of the game. So that's the end of this game, the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed that. It went very well for me. White didn't play very well, but this is what can happen at this level. I hope it's been interesting for you. Thank you very much for watching. That's the end.